What's up, guys? There's some stuff happening in the astrology that I thought was interesting, so thought I'd talk about it a little bit. Today is August 25th, 2020, but I'm actually going to start this about a week ago. So August 18th was the Leo new moon, and so I've got the chart right here. So it's in the evening, on the west coast anyway, and you've got Sun and Moon conjunct at 26 degrees Leo, and this was interesting because we also had Mercury. Mercury had just conjoined the sun, and still has an orb of 2 degrees from the new moon, so it's still pretty much technically conjunct. And then the three of them, all conjunct toward the end of Leo, are all trining Mars. So Sun, Moon, Mercury, all conjunct, and then they're all trining, making a trine with Mars. And so this was sort of the definitely the fieriest few days that we've had in a long, long time. None of the other planets past Mars are in fire signs, so this isn't a very fiery time, even though there's so much new stuff happening. We've actually been lacking the fire element, so it was interesting to get a burst of fire, and it actually was pretty pretty impacting. I think I sort of underestimated how much of an effect it would have. I was thinking that because these are inner planets, this is a quick planetary configuration. It'll be brief, and it was kind of brief. It lasted for a few days, but I think people definitely felt the effects of it. People at my work were saying that they felt like it was a full moon or something. And even though technically it wasn't a full moon, it was a new moon with a bunch of fire involved. A triple conjunction and a trine to Mars. So lots of fiery energy, lots of people getting in conflicts or confrontations. So that was interesting, and it definitely made me realize that I should pay more attention to these interplanet aspects, because it's nothing that's like shifting the whole world like historically or anything like that for the most part, but as individuals we definitely have very tangible effects from stuff like this. Okay. And then going forward, so right after that, the moon and Mercury entered Virgo, and then the sun entered Virgo August 22nd, I believe. Um, and then we've got the moon cruising through Libra, and I think now it's, oh, well, now it's, at the time I'm doing this, it's already in Sagittarius. Um, so yeah, we had a few days of that fiery energy, and then the transition into Virgo. So we're wrapping up summer. All of Virgo is considered summer because it's all Virgo. The Virgo season ends on the equinox, so we're still in summer, but we're in a mutable energy now. So when you get all the mutable signs happen at the end portions of the seasons, and so although it's still summer in this case, summer's energy is waning now. So there's sort of this like intermittent feeling like it's summer, feeling like it's fall. You might get weather that's resembles summer in your area and then resembles fall, intermittently, and that's kind of a key note in the mutable energy in general. Mutable signs are always changing, and they're always going back and forth between different things or trying different things. So that's kind of what you experience with the energy, and the weather is a good example, a good manifestation of that. But there are many other things. You can kind of imagine that if we as a society were more connected to nature, this would be a time of enjoying the summer that we have left and the good, easy times where there's so much, vibrant energy and vitality. But also, you need to start preparing for winter, sort of. So that's kind of Virgo's job, is to it's to interface between the present and the future. Enjoy the present while you can, but then also begin to plan and think about the future. So Virgo has like a lot on their plate, sort of. Yeah, so that's kind of just the energy that you feel, and sometimes it can be very sobering. It can be very difficult. When I worked retail, I noticed a lot of girls buying a lot of sweets, like at the very beginning of Virgo, and I think it's just because I didn't understand it at first, but I guess a lot of them were really emotional just for different reasons. But I think the reason why is because it can be hard for summer to end for us in the more northern latitudes. Um, and going from Leo to Virgo is one of the biggest reality checks, I think, because Leo is just very consistent, very fiery, very fun, And then you go to Virgo where you actually have to, sort of be more analytical, or think about your limited resources and how to manage them, basically. So that's kind of what we're thinking about now, sort of, you know, the interplay between the present and the future, and then be thinking more of, organizing, planning, stuff like that, typical Virgo stuff. Okay, so we've got that transition happening, starting in Virgo. Happy birthday, Virgos. And then, okay, but then what I thought was interesting is going to today's chart. So let's go to right now. Right now it's 1:17 p.m. here. Let's go to 1:43. That's close enough. But just today in particular, actually, yeah, that looks better. Um, I just thought it was interesting because there's just a couple minor aspects. So first of all, we have a first quarter moon in Sagittarius. Sun is 3 degrees Virgo, moon is 3 degrees Sagittarius. So you got a first quarter moon. So quarter moons, and particularly first quarter moons, are times of change, and it's a restless energy, and there's pros and cons to it. I've definitely noticed, like, if you live in a house with a lot of kids or pets, they'll be up later, they'll be more riled up, they'll be energetic. Like my cat is like running around right now. Um, yeah, there's just more like anxious energy. So there's good sides and bad sides to it. The good side would be more energy, more motivation to do something, to change something, try new things, go, do something fun or interesting, do something crazy, or just it's just a very active energy, and that can be very motivating. And I wouldn't say uplift. I almost said uplifting. Not really uplifting, but just energizing, motivating, stuff like that. The negative side would be it could make you nervous, anxious, restless. It could be a little bit chaotic, or there could be like a um, clashing or butting heads. Because technically the sun and the moon are sort of at odds. It's a 90-degree aspect is sort of tense. So there could be kind of different tensions, different situations, and typically you'll get kind of a mix of both. There's just a lot going on. The first quarter is about beginnings, so that energy, while it might make you restless or nervous or anxious, it's pushing you to change something. The status quo isn't good enough anymore. You need to change something. You need to do something, and that can be great. That renewal can be very rewarding and uplifting, and even just very fun. As long as you just gotta get up and do something. You gotta change something. Yeah, and this isn't a super big deal. We experience this once a month. Quarter moons in general happen every 2 weeks. But the first quarter moon is more restless, more energizing, more chaotic than the third quarter moon, because the first quarter moon is still in the beginning of the lunar cycle. Okay. Yeah, and in this case, there's the sun in Virgo clashing with the moon in Sagittarius, so both mutable signs. So that normal energy of the scatteredness and the chaos of the first quarter moon aspect might just become even that much more scattered and frenetic, because you're combining two mutable signs. So there's just lots and lots of little, lots and lots of different things going on, and it could fry your nervous system a little bit. So it's important to have a good time. You're combining two intellectual signs, so this kind of leans more on the cerebral side. Yeah, but I just thought that was interesting. But then also we've got Mercury trine Uranus today. So, and that's kind of similar in a way, just because it's a trine aspect, so it's more harmonious. It's more, free flowing and more smooth. But it's similar though, because you've got that eclectic, frenetic energy, the spontaneous or sporadic, like wanting to change things, wanting to get things moving. Um, yeah, and Virgo's involved in both of these, and Mercury's involved in one of them. So a lot of it might have to do with your routine, changing your routine in your life, changing the mundane details of your life, organizing, cleaning, throwing stuff out and getting new stuff, or maybe changing some aspect of your routine or your job, something like that. um, Reorganizing, rethinking your goals or your priorities, maybe, or um, reassessing your resources and how you're allocating your resources, your time, energy, time, energy, money, etc. Yeah, just rethinking stuff like that, and you could just have random breakthroughs today because Mercury trine Uranus does that. Mercury aspects with Uranus in general will make you just suddenly realize things because Uranus is like sudden unexpected things, and then Mercury is the mind. So you might just have crazy ideas that or your beliefs or your perspective might change a lot, and that can be really rewarding. And generally, it would be relatively easy. A lot of times, change can be hard. Even when you have a realization or a shift in consciousness, it can be unsettling, but it should be relatively easy because of the trine aspect. It's a relatively easy, smooth, positive aspect. So just a lot of change going on. And again, these are all inner planets. I mean, Uranus is an outer planet, but it's being aspected by Mercury, which is a very quick moving inner planet, especially right now. It's cruising right now. So again, none of this is like monumental. None of this is changing things on a historical level. But in our personal lives, we might all feel a lot of restlessness today and a lot of change and a lot of change that could be rewarding. Um, because it's good for growth and it's very mentally stimulating. It's a very mental energy right now. Yeah, so you might, you could experience everything I just said in a lot of different ways. It could be social, it could be revamping your work style or work strategy, or just maybe managing your debts or something. I don't know. It could be a bunch of different things, you know, but it looks exciting, it looks interesting. So that's the main thing. Also, in the sort of in the background, I think of it as we've got Venus at 17 degrees in Cancer. So it's exactly opposing Jupiter at 17 degrees Capricorn now. So this will be the first of three oppositions that we'll have with Jupiter, and then soon Pluto, and then Saturn. Um, so I'm still looking at the stock market and stuff and wondering if things could fluctuate or become a little bit more challenged in those areas, in finances, um, or it could just be people might be having a harder time finding pleasure or relaxing or feeling emotionally secure right now, you know, um, and again that could be part of all the other stuff going on, the mental stimulation, the change, the that can be very exciting on a mental level, but it could be a little bit discomforting on an emotional level where you might not feel secure. And I wanted to mention too that depending on your personality type, depending on your astrology, this may be easier or more challenging for you. So if you have a lot of mutable energy in your astrology, this should be a very easy, very exciting time for you today, and plus give or take a day in general with these two aspects. If you're the kind of person who's used to change, who likes new things, maybe cardinal energy could almost benefit from this too. Although you'd be dealing with a bunch of squares and oppositions from the cluster in Capricorn plus Venus in Cancer. But yeah. So if you're the type of person that likes change, that likes growth, likes trying new things, that can be sort of spontaneous or just go with the flow as things are changing. The kind of person who likes surprises, this might be really easy for you. Might just come naturally. If you're the kind of person who's more consistent, maybe more stubborn, who just likes to just go with something and just stick with it and not rock the boat, just go with the tried and true, and just if you're very consistent, if you have a lot of fixed signs in your astrology, this might be harder for you. It might be unsettling. Just try to be more open or more adaptable during this time, and it'll make it easier for you. Okay, yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps it up. I could just look at the future a little bit, but I haven't done this again. So I mentioned before that there's a reality check going from Leo to Virgo. I also think there's one going from Sagittarius to Capricorn, and so we'll experience that toward the end of August. August 27th, the moon enters Capricorn from Sagittarius. So, you go from the party animal that is Sagittarius to the more stoic Capricorn, and so that's a pretty big shift where, you gotta become a lot more realistic, a lot more like grown up in a way. Not picking on Sagittarius, but a lot more, um, you know, like conservative or stoic. And then, and this is more difficult because not only is the moon in detriment in Capricorn, so every time, well, I guess every time in general the moon enters Capricorn, it's a more difficult time, but especially this year, we've got Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn all conjunct, almost conjunct here. Well, not really conjunct, but they're all sort of clustered at the end of Capricorn. So as the moon passes through here, it's always a kind of difficult transit, and we experience this every month for this whole year, but typically the hardest part of the month is usually when that happens. So um, might experience a little bit of a hard time. However, this should be easier than in past months because this time we have the sun in Virgo, and even though it's too soon to say that it's trining these three planets, but at least it's trining by sign, and Mercury is beginning at this point, August 28th. Mercury is beginning to trine Jupiter, so it'll trine Jupiter, then Pluto, then Saturn. Um, so that'll make the transit for the moon a little bit easier because it has these sort of loose trines with Mercury and the sun in Virgo. And there's also a trine on the other side with Uranus. So we'll actually have a sort of a very loose grand Earth trine. But it is significant because most of the planets will be involved in this. So a lot of Earth energy. Um, yeah, and these outer planets that are involved, not only Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter, but also Uranus, are all retrograde right now. So there's a lot of pivoting or restructuring, rethinking things, going backward, and bringing up stuff from the past when it comes to these larger societal issues, the government, politics, current events, stuff like that. A lot of what's going on now on that scale, on the big picture scale, is about the past. It's about going inward. It's about restructuring things on the inside. So that's why, even though we're going toward the election, things are just a little bit quieter right now. Especially when you compare it to earlier this year. Um, Again, like 2020 is a crazy year all around, all through the whole year. It's definitely crazy and there's a lot going on. However, at this time, it's just a little bit quieter than the past several months before. So yeah, so Earth is all about physical stuff, finances, accounting and stuff. So, and also systems. Government is kind of an Earth concept. So yeah, a lot of restructuring on that in that area. And the trines during the Virgo season from the Sun and Mercury will just kind of give some like lubrication, or just make these things a little bit easier, I guess, and maybe will allow the common people, to sort of see what's going on and to have a positive outlook on that, more slightly more optimistic future, if that makes sense, or an optimistic perspective on things. Just because we're finally getting all these trines, and this is probably the there are a lot of issues with this, but this is one of the most positive charts I've seen in a long time. I'm kind of hesitant in saying that, but I just haven't seen that many trines in a long time. That's all. So, while there is that difficult stuff that we've been dealing with all year and will continue to deal with, you know, like these three planets here, especially Pluto and Saturn, sort of conjunct still. All that's really hard and it's been difficult consistently. However, we do get a bunch of trines thrown in, so that a lot of progress. So that's really good for any Earth signs out there, especially Capricorns, because this has all been specifically hard on anyone with Capricorn dominant astrology, Capricorn Sun, Moon, or Rising. Yeah, so you should be getting some trines from Uranus, and then the Sun and Mercury as well. So yeah, so a little bit of good news, and although we do get Neptune has been in Pisces like forever, it feels like. So every time the Sun and Mercury are in Virgo, they oppose Neptune and Pisces. So that's a little bit mentally destabilizing, honestly, because Virgo and Pisces both kind of have to do with health and mental health. Could be destabilizing for your physical health too. So that's like one downside to this Virgo season, but it's something we've been dealing with for several years, so we're pretty much used to it at this point, I would say. But yeah, still, all these trines kind of counteract that for sure. I would say they sort of dominate the astrology. Um, yeah, so I mean, it looks like things. I'm hesitant in saying this, but it looks like things might actually be kind of chill, be kind of positive or easy. I don't want to say easy. There's so much like bad stuff happening right now, but relatively lucrative. Just in the end of August going into September. And it does heat up though going on later. So I'll maybe in a few weeks I'll cover that, but there's definitely more to come. This is probably the last uh last break or last breath of fresh air before we go into the very intense changes that will happen in late September going into October, November, and December. So yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I just thought today looked like a really interesting day in the astrology just because of these two aspects, the quarter moon and the Mercury Uranus trine. So yeah, okay, I need to wrap this up, but I'll cover the changes as they come, and yeah, just enjoy this time because it looks, especially mutable signs, fixed signs it might be a little bit harder, but enjoy this time till the very beginning of September because this is one of the more sweet spots in 2020. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.